Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Noelle and today we are talking about the Nike ZoomX Invincible Run. It's a pair of running shoes that I received just alongside the Nike React Infinity 2. Where is that shoe? So I got them both at the same time and basically also ran in them in tandem. So this review is not really a pure review just of the Invincible, but it's kind of a comparative review as well, because a lot of people have been asking me what's the difference between the Invincible and the React Infinity, which one should I get for the kind of athlete I am and all that. So we are going to dive right into it. So Nike released both the ZoomX Invincible and the React Infinity 2 at the same time, and they both stem from Nike's new campaign to reduce running injuries. So they just want to keep people running for longer distances without injuring themselves. But the main difference is in the kind of material that they've used for the midsoles of the shoes and also how the shoes are constructed. For instance, the React Infinity 2, which I am grabbing here, uses React foam. And I didn't mention this in my review, but they actually do have a kind of arch support that just cradles the arch of the shoe. It's quite stiff. It comes around here all the way to the arch area. And in doing so, it controls the motion of your foot. So instead of your foot excessively supinating or pronating to either side, the React Infinity 2, just like its predecessor, the React Infinity, is trying to keep your foot going in a straight line. The Invincible has a different material for the midsole. They're using ZoomX, which is a material that you probably heard me discussing when it comes to the Vaporfly Next Percent and the Tempo Next Percent and the Nike Zoom Fly 2 and onwards. But basically ZoomX is Nike's foam that they've been using to add more cushioning without sacrificing weight. So that's why Nike has been making these shoes with higher stacks than previously they've done. And that's because they can make the stacks thicker, but you don't experience a lot of weight in the shoe. However, unlike those other models that I mentioned that also have ZoomX, the ZoomX Invincible is completely, its midsole is completely ZoomX, and it doesn't appear to be a racing geared shoe. In fact, it slots into Nike's kind of long, steady distance shoes that they've been pushing. I guess it's why Nike released it alongside the Infinity React 2. So if you take a look at the shoe, it doesn't exactly scream speed. I mean, if you compare it to, let's say, the Tempo Next Percent, which looks a lot sleeker, the Invincible looks kind of very, very rounded, almost like a bump car. And that's not to knock its appearance, but it's just, it has a very different ethos to its appearance, to its outer. What you also might notice is this really strange bumper design on the back. It's very squared off, which adds to the uniqueness of the shoe's looks. Now the upper is Flyknit. It's got all sorts of reflectors around it. It's got a detachable insole, unlike the Infinity 2, which had a glued insole. So I've run in the ZoomX Invincible for the past 3 weeks. Actually, it's already the 4th week of February, so it's been 4 weeks. And I've run in these, just these, I've run in these, and then the Infinity Reacts, I've run in these, and then the Tempo Next Percents as well. So I could basically find that baseline what this shoe feels like in comparison to the other shoes that I tested them alongside. I also have a few questions that I've asked my followers to send through about the ZoomX Invincible, just so that I know how to target this review and make sure that all of your questions about this shoe are answered. Now, I did get a question about durability. I've only run in these shoes for a maximum of 20 kilometers, so I really can't say anything about the durability of the shoe. I have heard though that React foam is much hardier than ZoomX foam, and I did hear that in earlier editions of the Zoomfly and of the Vaporfly Next Percent, that the ZoomX did not play nice with other foams, and it tended to kind of separate from the other foams that it was mixed with in the midsole. Now, since this is a full ZoomX midsole, there's nothing to separate from, which should lend itself to the durability of this midsole. You do see some, if you can see that, you do see some folding and flexing in the midsole material already, and that's at 20 kilometers, but it's not really that significant. It looks like normal wear and tear of a shoe sole when it compresses and returns to its regular shape. I cannot really say anything about durability, but I do think that because of how the ZoomX Invincible has been constructed, then it should probably last you for a while. Okay, so let's talk about how this shoe feels on the foot. When I slid my feet into these, I just found them kind of pillowy and bouncy. You do kind of feel a little bit like you're standing on a stability ball. That's how I felt inside the shoe, but not in a bad way. It felt cushy as well as bouncy. So you can see that that's a ZoomX promise. You get lots of cushioning, but you also get lots of energy return. Now, the difference between this and, let's say, an Infinity React is that the Infinity React actually feels much firmer underfoot than the ZoomX Invincible. This one kind of reminded me of the old Lunar Epic shoes that Nike used to sell before they moved from Lunar to React. And then, unlike the Tempo Next Percent, which has a ZoomX midsole, you'll find that when you stand in these shoes, the Tempo Next Percent kind of makes you want to shift your weight forward onto the ball of the foot. Now, in the Tempo Next Percent, this part of the shoe on the inside, this is the ZoomX. The heel is React foam. So that's two different materials. This shoe is structured to make you kind of put your weight, your core weight, to make you tip your core weight forward. Whereas the ZoomX Invincible, if you stand in them stationary, you'll want to keep your weight a little bit further back in your midfoot and in the heel. These ZoomX Invincibles are very comfortable running at lower speeds, where you do kind of land on your midfoot or towards the rear of the foot because of the pace that you're going, versus the Tempo Next Percent, where you're trying to move faster forward, so you're really leaning your weight forward and you're naturally landing on that midfoot, forefoot area to take advantage of that falling forward. So we are going to move on to some questions. Question number 1 is the ZoomX Invincible recommended for flat-footed runners? This shoe, because it does have a wide midsole, it does give some stability. So if you're flat-footed and you tend to roll your ankles, this will prevent your foot from rolling. If you land weird, it'll make you land more stably. But I don't think it actually has a lot of other stability features in it. Unlike the the React Infinity, which had fly wire where the laces met the shoe holes. The ZoomX Invincible does not have the fly wire, so it doesn't really control the motion of the foot. Do I recommend it for flat-footed runners? It really depends on your run mechanics, if you need a bit more stability or if you can tolerate not having stability features in the shoe. I'm the kind of person who is more comfortable in more neutral shoes, which is why I think the Infinity Reacts felt a little strange to me. And you can see from the video that I did tend to roll my ankle inwards more in the Infinity Reacts than in the ZoomX Invincible. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like that feeling of your foot being controlled in its motion, then I would recommend the ZoomX Invincible because it is a neutral kind of long run shoe. Okay, number 2, which actually flows from what I said in question number 1. Do they sacrifice stability in the name of cushioning? So ZoomX Invincible focused a lot on the cushioning and the impact aspect of running and how many runners get injured because of the repetitive strain of impact. Versus the React Infinities, where other runners, due to their biomechanics, probably appreciated a bit more stability features through the shoe. So they didn't sacrifice stability for cushioning. It's just that the ZoomX Invincible has a different approach to preventing injury. Question number 3, how is the traction and cushion? If you can see, I am currently getting drenched in sweat because summer has come upon us and there haven't been a lot of rains during these days, so I haven't run in these shoes in the wet. That being said, this blown rubber outsole that Nike provides with many of its shoes is definitely quite grippy, and I think it will last well. It's very durable. When it comes to cushioning, this is the softest Nike shoe I have run in. But when I say soft, I don't mean that it takes away all the energy from the running, because it is actually also one of the bounciest that I have experienced for some reason. Question number 4. How is the feel compared to Nike carbon fiber plated shoes? Okay, so I have to have a disclaimer. This Tempo Next Percent is actually not carbon fiber plated. It's a composite plate inside this shoe. I did run in a carbon plated shoe, that the first Zoom Fly. I'm not sure it was carbon. I think it was also composite. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. What's the difference in feel between these shoes? This one, you definitely do feel it's a little firmer because of that that plate, and it's a little springier because of that plate. Definitely the Zoom pods in the Tempo Next Percent and the other carbon plated shoes will have an effect on how these Tempo Next Percents feel compared to a ZoomX Invincible. So the Tempo Next Percent definitely feels a lot faster than the ZoomX Invincible. I'm not saying though that you can't use these ZoomX Invincibles for fast runs. The ZoomX Invincibles feel like they would take a bit more work to make work in a fast 10K than the Tempo Next Percents would. So in conclusion, your ZoomX Invincible is a long, steady run shoe. It's meant for people with neutral shoe needs. A lot of cushioning rather than stability is the hallmark of the ZoomX Invincible. And even though they use the same material, ZoomX, as the Tempo Next Percent and the Vaporfly Next Percent and the Zoom Fly, the way the shoes are constructed will definitely affect whether or not they feel comfortable with for use at different paces. I think the ZoomX Invincible is great for long distances at lower paces versus the other shoes that have ZoomX in them. Okay guys, that is my full review. If you have any comments, suggestions, if you want to push back on anything I've said about the ZoomX Invincible and the other Nike shoes that I have mentioned in this review, please do leave that in the comments below, or you can reach out to me on social media and I can respond to you there. If you found this review revealing, entertaining, if you found that it helped you make a purchase decision or not, please let me know. Please give me a thumbs up if you appreciated this, and also please subscribe to my channel so that you can see my next videos. Thank you so much guys. I am melting here in this heat, so that's all for now. See you next time.